Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I want to be going ahead and speaking about Taraweeh prayer. Where did it come from? Is it an innovation? Why do Sunni Muslims today pray this, especially in the month of Ramadan? With Ramadan approaching us tomorrow, actually, Ramadan Kareem to all my brothers and sisters out there who are going ahead and starting their fast tomorrow. I want to go ahead and analyze why is this Taraweeh prayer so important, especially to the month of Ramadan, but especially to most Muslims around the world today. Why do they pray this prayer, this 11 to 20 rak'ah prayer that takes a half hour to an hour at a time to pray? Why do people come together and congregate for this prayer, and why do they pray it? Where did it come from? Where was it practiced? It's not one of the 5 obligatory daily prayers, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. Now, I am Shia Muslim. I do not go ahead and take part of the Taraweeh tradition because it is not something that is mandatory or obligatory in the religion of Islam. This is something that is looked as good to do, something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you bonus points or rewards for doing. But this is not something that you have to do. This is not a 5 daily obligatory prayer. It's not like fasting or, believing in one Lord. This is not one of the 5 pillars of Islam. This prayer is outside of that. So where did it come from? Why do we practice it? Why do we pray it? And what is going on here? To go ahead and help us out, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what Sheikh Assim al-Hakeem has to say. He is one of the most popular Sunni voices here on the platform of YouTube. And we're going to go ahead and see what he has to say. The video is called Is Taraweeh an innovation or Biddah? Assim al-Hakeem. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hear what Assim has to say, and I will go ahead and touch on some things as we go here. I want to know what an innovation is. I want to know where this came from, why it's practiced today, and if innovations are okay. Because as a Shia Muslim, I know what is an innovation and not an innovation. It's very clear to me. The Holy Quran is right here. So when I see things that are done outside the Holy Quran, it's an innovation. Taraweeh prayer is one innovation from the Sunni side. From the Shia side, like during the month of Ashura, they go like this and they tap their chest, right? This is an innovation. You should not be smacking yourself because someone died to mourn them. I understand where the tradition comes from. I understand it's not to abuse yourself, and I understand what it is. But this is an innovation. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to throw you in hell for it? Probably not. Is it worshiping other than God by tapping your chest in honor of someone's death? No. But do Sunni Muslims look at Shia Muslims as if they're going to burn in hell for it and it's the biggest innovation in the world and they're worshipping imams because they tap their chest? Yes, because they don't understand where the tradition came from. Do Shia Muslims look at Sunni Muslims praying an hour straight, doing a 20 rak'ah prayer and going, what are they doing? What are they doing? What is this? This is not in the Quran. This is not in the Sunnah. Where is this? Why are these people praying a 20 rak'ah prayer? Yes, they do. So I'm here to go ahead and make these videos and talk about these subjects because these subjects are important to allow the Muslim Ummah to come together and talk about these things. You need to talk about the controversial things. Nobody cares about the basics. We understand the prophet names. We understand you pray 5 times a day. We understand, you fast during the... We understand the basics. We understand Jesus didn't die on the cross. We got all this stuff. As Muslimin, we need to stop going over the basics 100 times and talk about the important things. Why are we praying a 20 rak'ah prayer in Ramadan? Do I understand why I'm doing this as a Shia, as a Sunni Muslim every single Ramadan? Do I know why I'm doing this? Why am I fasting? What is Ramadan? People need to understand why they're doing what they're doing. Not just the basic necessities, because most people understand those basics. We need to understand why. So without further ado, Assim al-Hakeem, please go ahead, take the stage, and let us know why Taraweeh is or is not an innovation from the Sunni perspective.
What is the origin of Taraweeh? Some say that it is a bid'ah. And what is a bid'ah? An innovation or a bid'ah is something that is invented in religion that is not part of it with the intention of worshipping Allah and getting closer to Him.
Yeah, but that's not always true because you, in specific, Assim al-Hakeem, have made many comments about how the Shia commit bid'ah and their bid'ah is shirk. So if I was trying to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by creating bid'ah, then it wouldn't lead to shirk, would it? It wouldn't lead to worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I understand what you're saying. Someone who creates bid'ah within the religion creates this bid'ah to create another ritual, to create another form of worship, to get more in depth into the religion or to connect themselves closer to God. That's the intention of the innovation to begin with. So let's go ahead and continue.
So some say Taraweeh is a bid'ah, and this is not true. The Prophet himself, alayhi salatu wasalam, initiated this sunnah.
So we're going to go ahead and take his definition of what a bid'ah is, because he just said it's not a bid'ah. So he says Taraweeh prayer is not a bid'ah. But a bid'ah is something that you bring to the religion that was not there before, right? To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a greater way, or to add something to worship Him more, right? That's what he said, a bid'ah is. And he said it's something that's added that's a good thing. Someone usually adds it as a good thing so they can get closer to God. So using that definition and him saying Taraweeh is not a bid'ah, let's figure out where Taraweeh is from and see if he's contradicting himself now.
No. And the hadith is authentic. The Prophet prayed Taraweeh prayer, leading the companions for 3 or 4 nights. And then he refrained, he stopped. So the companions started calling him out, "O Prophet of Allah, come and pray like you prayed the previous nights. We like it." So the Prophet came out to them and he said, "I have seen what you had done the previous nights. Had I not feared that Allah would obligate this prayer upon you, I would have continued." So listen to the Prophet's justification, alayhi salatu wasalam.
Okay, first off, I'd like to go ahead and say, if the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, went ahead and took this away, so he was praying it for 3-4 days, then after 3-4 days, he stopped. And he said, "I'm not praying it anymore with you guys because I don't want it to be forced upon you." Why are you praying it today? If the Prophet took it away from the religion, like you have a verse that specifically shows you that the Prophet takes the prayer away from his companions, but you still pray it today, how is that not an innovation? If the Prophet took something away from you and then you took it back and started doing it, how is that not innovation in any way, shape, or form? And secondly, I really dislike when hadiths demine or bring down the authority and the knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Especially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah is all-knowing. Allah is the sustainer of everything. So the fact that the Prophet is adding and subtracting things, right? Because he doesn't want Allah to make something mandatory upon his ummah, right? He doesn't want to make this prayer mandatory upon his companions. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything and knows what's best for us, Allah's going to make the prayer mandatory if he wants to or not. Regardless if the Prophet's praying a prayer at night with his companions, the Prophet knows, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to pray this prayer at night, He will let us pray this prayer at night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want hardship on us. He wants to remove hardship on us, right? So why the Prophet would think or even question God, like this hadith in specific is the Prophet questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get what I'm saying? If the Prophet just kept praying his prayer the way he wanted to pray it, and Allah wanted to make it mandatory or not make it mandatory, He's not going to do it because the Prophet prayed it with his companions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to put something upon the ummah and all of mankind because He wants to. You know? So I really don't get this. When a specific hadith or someone like Hakeem here is describing my Prophet as someone who's confused or unsure, or describing my Creator as someone who may or may not make a decision based on if the Prophet's praying a prayer or not, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all-knowing. So with or without the Prophet, if Allah wants to go ahead and make this an obligation upon mankind, He's going to make it an obligation upon mankind. These silly stories to me sometimes deter me away from my own religion. Because Islam is a very logical religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to test and fact check. So when you tell me stories like this, it actually makes me upset because I don't know if I believe them. Because you're speaking in a way of bringing my Prophet down or bringing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala down to make something easier for you. So it's kind of crazy to me, or to make your stance seem right. And this is why bid'ah is very dangerous in religion. Not because you're committing bid'ah, because you warp the original message of the Holy Quran to fit your narrative or to appease your bid'ah, even though your bid'ah completely goes directly against what's happening in your book. The Prophet took something away, but you're telling me it's not a bid'ah today. The Prophet told you not to pray the prayer because he didn't want to make it mandatory on all of mankind. But you made it mandatory yourself to pray this prayer today as Sunni Muslims around the world. It just doesn't make sense to me. Nothing about what you just said here is a one conclusive narrative. It's very wish-washy. It's very counter-argumentative to your own self or your own definition of innovation or your own definition here of what Taraweeh is. So let's continue.
It's a good thing. I love it. I know you love it. But because I was afraid that Allah would make it obligatory upon the ummah, which would lead probably to hardship, I stopped it. I was so merciful to my ummah. I didn't want to burden them with more obligations. So
now the Prophet Muhammad's the merciful one, not God. God didn't not put it upon us. The Prophet didn't not put it upon us. That's what's crazy to me. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to make Taraweeh prayer something that was obligatory on you, with or without how the Prophet felt about it, He's going to do it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's best for us. But He didn't. So, you're telling me it's not an innovation. Allah didn't create this prayer. Allah didn't permit this prayer. Allah didn't make this prayer obligatory. And the Prophet took it away. You still pray it today. But it's not a bid'ah.
One who started it was the Prophet ﷺ. After he died, what he had feared does not exist anymore. And that is, no one can obligate night prayer because he's dead. How can it be obligated? That is why when Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, in Ramadan went out to the masjid, he saw the Muslims praying in groups. 3 people here, 10 people there, 5 people here. But they were not in congregation, all of them. So he ordered Ubay ibn Ka'b to lead them in Taraweeh. So they all prayed in congregation Taraweeh behind one Imam rather than being segregated and spread all over the masjid behind many Imams.
So I have a question. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted this to happen, or if the Prophet Muhammad wanted this to happen, wouldn't they have implemented it into the religion while the Prophet was alive? You're telling me Umar waited for the Prophet to pass away, so there was no authority that can change the religion. And then when he walked into the mosque, he saw everyone praying separately. So he decided upon his own authority to put them all together, congregate them under one imam, and have them pray this specific Taraweeh prayer that has a specific count of rak'ah that is different than the 5 obligatory daily prayers. It's not a 4 rak'ah prayer, it's not a 2 rak'ah prayer, it's not a 3 rak'ah prayer. It's an 11 to 20 rak'ah prayer. Where in the religion of Islam is this permitted? If the Prophet didn't want to make it obligatory, but Sunni Muslims make it this obligatory thing that they pray during Ramadan. Like they all go congregate together and pray Taraweeh prayer. Like if you as a Sunni Muslim don't pray Taraweeh prayer, do you get looked at as like, whoa bro, what's going on? What's wrong with you? This, to me, when I look at the Sunni majority, especially during the month of Ramadan, I don't see any of them not praying Taraweeh. Like they all pray Taraweeh prayer. They all go to the mosque and pray Taraweeh prayer. This is more important than like fasting almost in the month of Ramadan to my Sunni Muslim brothers and sisters that I'm friends with, that I know. They literally cannot wait to pray that Taraweeh prayer. So, why is it not an innovation? If the Prophet did everything in his power to keep it away from the Ummah, keep it away from the religion, because he stopped the practice, and he didn't want Allah to make it mandatory. And Umar came and made it a mandatory congregational prayer behind one Imam. How is that not a bid'ah? And how does Umar have the justification or the authority to add this upon the Ummah, or add this into the religion? How? Does that make any sense to you? Is he our Prophet? No. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permit it? No. So how is this not a bid'ah? How is this not an innovation? Continue on.
And when he saw this, he approved it and said that this is something that is good. And he used the word bid'ah. Ni'matul bid'ati hadith. But bid'ah here is not religious. Because in religion, the origin is there, which is the Prophet's doing alayhi salam. Bid'ah here is the linguistic terminology, which is something new. And because they were praying in groups, different groups, what he had done is something new, which is nice, described as bid'ah, but it is not a religious bid'ah that is bad in Islam. Again, because the one who did it was...
Habibi, you keep saying the word bad in Islam or good. It doesn't matter if it's bad or good. A bid'ah is a bid'ah. If it was good and it was needed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have put it in the religion. You and Umar ibn Khattab do not know better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. If the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted people to congregate and pray this prayer at night, He would have congregated them and told them to pray the prayer at night. And He would have told them, this is not obligatory on you, this is something good for you to do. Do it because it's good for you. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, didn't. He retracted it and he took it away from us. Umar put it back upon us. Umar congregated these people and then called it a good bid'ah, a good innovation out of his own mouth. But you want to sit here and say, because it wasn't bad, it's not really a bid'ah. Because the Prophet did it before, it's not really a bid'ah. No, the Prophet literally took it away. He didn't just do it before, he took it away. He said, we're not doing this night prayer anymore. I don't want it to be put upon my ummah. I don't want my ummah to do this prayer. But today, billions of Sunni Muslims are praying the prayer that the Prophet said, I don't want to put this upon my ummah. I don't want to make this a mandatory thing upon my ummah. But now, this is a mandatory part of Sunni Islam, Taraweeh prayer. If you are a Sunni Muslim, you know Taraweeh prayer. You've prayed Taraweeh prayer. It's almost like something you have to do, even though you don't have to do it. It's something you feel like you have to do, especially in the month of Ramadan. And I find it very interesting, he doesn't want to call it a bid'ah. He doesn't want to call it an innovation. It's not an innovation by religious terms. It's an innovation by linguistic terms. Is it new? Yes. Was it not in the religion? Yes, it wasn't in the religion. Did we see the Prophet do it for 3 nights? Yeah. Did he take it away? Yeah. Did Umar bring it back? Yeah. Was he supposed to? No. Is it a good bid'ah? Yeah, it's a great bid'ah. Doesn't make any sense. How can something be good, and how can something be a good innovation or is a good new thing if it didn't come from Allah and it didn't come from the Prophet, and the Prophet specifically said, I don't want this in the religion? That doesn't even make logical sense. Sheikh Asim al-Hakeem, Habibi. To go ahead and close it off, I just want to go ahead and take a look at what the definition of innovation is. The definition of innovation is a new idea, method, or device, the introduction of something new. So Umar ibn Khattab went ahead and innovated this into the religion. This is not something that was in the religion. This is not something that the Prophet told people to practice. This is not something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told people to practice. This is not something that they were told to pray or told to do. But Umar ibn Khattab came and told them to do it, told them to congregate, told them to do these things, and initiated this as a practice that is still done 1500 years later to today. And nobody does this prayer, no one today does this Taraweeh prayer because the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Because the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, took it off of you. He took it away from you. He doesn't want to put this obligation on you. The reason you pray Taraweeh prayer is not because of the Prophet. It's not because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason Taraweeh prayer is performed today, 1500 years later, is because of Amr. That is the only reason. That is an innovation. That is something that was brought new to the religion. Because if it wasn't brought from the Prophet and it wasn't brought from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're doing it for Amr, this is an innovation. Because it's come from someone else that's not is not a religious is a religious messenger, like the Prophet Muhammad or like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how many rak'ah the Taraweeh prayer goes ahead and has. I just wanted to go ahead and display this. So Taraweeh prayer has up to 20 rak'ah. The prayer typically consists of 20 rak'ah, lasting approximately 45 minutes to an hour, depending on whether shorter or longer portions of the Quran are recited during the prayer. Now, if you look at specific amounts of rak'ah that are found within hadiths, you tend to get the number 11. So my understanding is you can pray between 11 to 20 rak'ah. There are different types of Taraweeh prayer that you would perform, and depending on who's reciting it or where you are or what you're doing, you can do different types of these prayers. It's not a specific prayer, like I said, it's not a mandatory prayer that, you pray the morning prayer with 2 rak'ah. You pray the afternoon prayer, 4 rak'ah. It's not like that. You can basically, modify the amount of rak'ah that are within this prayer when it comes down to it. And the last thing I want to go ahead and take a look at here is the exact verse that goes ahead and adds this to our religion. So this is Sahih al-Bukhari 2010 and book 31 hadith 3. I went out to the company of Umar bin al-Khattab one night in Ramadan to the mosque and found the people praying in different groups. A man praying alone or a man praying with a little group behind him. So Umar said, in my opinion, again, this is how this starts. In my opinion, not in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's opinion or the Prophet Muhammad's opinion. No. In my opinion, Umar's opinion, I would better collect these people under the leadership of one Qari reciter and let them pray in congregation. So he made up his mind, not Allah's mind, not the Prophet's mind. He made up his mind, Umar's mind, to congregate them behind Ubay bin Ka'b. Then, on another night, I went again in his company and the people were praying behind the reciter. On that, Umar remarked, what an excellent bid'ah. So he came back 2 nights later after he, in his opinion, after he made up his mind, he went back the night after and he said, what an excellent bid'ah. Innovation in religion. This is the best part. This is a Sunni scripture. This is a Sunni hadith. This is a Sunni website called SUNNAH.com. Did Asam here not just tell us that this is not a religious innovation, but this is an innovation by the verbal standard? This is a verbal innovation. This is not a religious innovation. Is that not what he said?
Because they were praying in religion, the origin is there. But bid'ah here is not religious. Because in religion, the origin is there, which is the Prophet's doing alayhi salam.
He said it's not an innovation in religion. It literally just says, what an excellent bid'ah, i.e. innovation in religion. This is. Bismillah, if it's not an innovation in religion, what is it? He literally brought people together to pray a specific prayer that he told them to pray that wasn't told upon them by the Prophet or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It literally says here, in my opinion, talking about Umar, in Umar's opinion, and Umar made up his mind to congregate them. Then he comes back a day later and goes, what an excellent bid'ah, innovation, i.e. innovation in religion. Word for word. But you're telling me it's not an innovation in religion. That's so counterproductive. Like, as Muslims, we need to fact check these things. We need to understand what's going on in front of us. This is my problem with Shia and Sunni scholars. It doesn't matter if they're wrong, and it doesn't matter if they know they're wrong. They try and shape-shift their scriptures and their hadiths and the Quran to fit their narrative. Or else the whole entire 1500 years of I'm Shia and I'm right and I'm Sunnah and I'm right, their egos collapse. You can no longer have an ego when you admit you're wrong. Yes, there's problems. There's human error going on in hadith. But to sit here and tell me this is not an innovation in religion when I pull up the hadith in the exact English translation from the biggest Sunni hadith website on the planet says innovation in religion right here. It's mind-boggling to me. Because now, Hakeem, you're just arguing to argue. Because your own hadith disagrees with you. This is but the prayer which they do not perform, but sleep, as it is better than the one they are offering. He meant the prayer in the last part of the night. In those days, people used to pray in the early part of the night. Okay. So Umar ibn Khattab came. People were not congregated. People were not praying this prayer in congregation. They weren't praying this 20 rak'ah prayer. He brung them together. He told them to pray this under a specific imam. He made them pray this. After a couple of days, he came back. He literally said, this is a fantastic bid'ah. This is a great innovation to the religion, word for word, out of his own mouth. And it's a bid'ah. It's something that the Prophet did not teach and the Prophet did not want in the religion. He actually took it away from the religion so people wouldn't perform this prayer. And Umar decided to add it back to the religion and tell the people to congregate who weren't congregated and told them to pray the prayer who weren't praying the prayer already. And he added this to religion. And 1500 years later, we're still practicing it today. So, for everyone that's watching today, Sunni, Shia, whatever you are, thank you for coming in today. God bless every single one of you. I just wanted to go ahead and analyze this from a definitional standpoint, from a historical standpoint, and from a Sunnah standpoint. I want to know what my Prophet wanted. What did the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, want? Did he want this prayer in my religion? Did he want us performing it? Clearly he didn't, according to the Sunnah. Clearly he took it out. Clearly he didn't want it to happen, and it's happening. And that's fine. I don't think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to punish you for praying. I don't. I think you're going to get rewarded for praying this Taraweeh prayer. But is it a bid'ah? 100% it's a bid'ah. Is it innovation? 100% it's an innovation. Did it come from Umar? Yes, 100% came from Umar. Did it come from our Prophet? It did not come from our Prophet. Our Prophet didn't want us to pray this prayer. Did it come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, it didn't. My Holy Quran is right here. Taraweeh prayers nowhere in the Holy Quran. So, please be careful, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. When you are growing up, when you are learning things, when you are praying and fasting and doing things, figure out, why am I fasting? Why am I praying? What is this? Where is the origin? Who created it? Where did it come from? What's going on? Question these things. And even if a sheikh in the highest position tells you it's because of this, research it yourself. Go into the hadith yourself. Ask him where. Where did you get this information? Because these guys, I promise you, doesn't matter how big they are, their egos, I promise you, they will lie to defend their sect before they tell you the truth, right? And allow you to go ahead and think clearly. Because these guys care about the structure of Sunni Islam. If Sheikh Assim al-Hakeem comes out and goes ahead and calls Taraweeh prayer a innovation, even though it's literally called an innovation word for word in the hadith by Umar himself, word for word. First person, Umar calls it innovation out of his mouth. You can do whatever you want to Mr. Hakeem. He will never say it's an innovation. Why? Because it threatens the legitimacy of Sunni Islam. It threatens the we are the Sunnah, we are the preserved, we are the truth part of Sunni Islam. Because once you start going, oh, there's an imperfection here, or this is wrong, or we do things that are innovations too. Once he agrees, or once he goes ahead and admits that in Sunni Islam we do innovations that were not a part of the Prophet's Sunnah, he opens up a wormhole. What else are innovations in Sunni Islam? What else are we practicing that are innovations that aren't from the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him? And you'd be surprised. As Sunni, as Shia Muslims, there's a lot of innovations in both sects that we should not be practicing and should not be here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you everyone for coming in today. God bless. And if you guys have anything else to say, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. Free Palestine, free our world from this deception. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.